Hello everybody and welcome back to another Kings of War Battle Report. I'm Visibly Riley, and today we have something a little different as due to the COVID-19 virus and the social distancing it has caused. Flatten that curve, people. I have been without a regular gaming space in this time, and I still want to do some battle reports this year, especially as I would like to play some Kings of War games just in general. So instead, I ended up signing up for the Call to Arms tournament. I believe this is the third one that's been held, but it is a Universal Battle 2 event with games held every 2 weeks online. So yeah, I thought that might be, I don't know, a little fun. I have played 2 games now on UB2, and I'm pretty much an expert, so ask me anything. Anyway, this week I ended up playing my Kingdoms of Men versus the Empire of Dust in a 2,300 point battle with the scenario being Dominate. So first off, we'll go through my opponent's Empire of Dust list. We open with 2 hordes of enslaved guardians, one of whom has the Brew of Haste. Then we have 2 mummy regiments, followed by a regiment of Revenant Cav with J Boots. And then we have an Idol of Shobek, a Monolith, 2 scavenger regiments, the Ammonite Pharaoh with Eternal Guard, a Soul Snare, the Curse High Priest with Conjure Step, Weakness 3, Surge 8, and Heal 5, and finally 2 Balefire Catapults. As for my thoughts on this list, I like it quite a bit. It's pretty similar to what I've been running in Empire of Dust, or what I was running back when I was looking at them at the beginning of the edition. The only things that are a little off-putting to me are the number of spells on the Cursed High Priest. I don't ever like running a wizard with 3 spells, especially now that there's no magic item to let you cast 2 in a turn. So I'm not a big fan of that, and also Cursed High Priests are so overcosted already. I just can't imagine running 3 there. So I'd probably drop that weakness, especially as, you know, due to the aforementioned high cost of a Cursed High Priest, you can't really easily get 2 to 3 into a list, and if you do, you're paying a lot of points for their higher access to heal and surge due to their additional special rule of rerolling 2 dice against skeleton targets. So yeah, I probably wouldn't run 1 weakness in a list, and I probably wouldn't run weakness on a Cursed High Priest. So that is a thing I would drop. And lastly, the Monolith is, I don't know, it's definitely a personal choice sort of a unit. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think I'd rather just have the ASB with the Grimoire if I'm going to run something like that, or even a Revenant with the Grimoire. So yeah, I get the idea of getting a bit more surge. It's an interesting unit, but not one that I particularly rate highly. But that doesn't mean it's bad. The only thing that really sticks out to me is that weakness, or that 3rd spell in the Cursed High Priest. Otherwise, I really like this list. Really cool. And onto my Kingdoms of Men list, I will open by saying I have never played Kingdoms of Men. I've never played as them, and I barely played against them. So here we go. I opened with 2 hordes of Fanatics, one of whom has the Caterpillar Potion, and the other has the Brew of Strength. Then I have 3 hordes of Spear Phalanx, all of whom have pikes and Indomitable Will, because Indomitable Will is ridiculous. And then I brought the Scrying Gem on one of them. Then I have 2 regiments of Pole Arms, 2 regiments of a Militia, 2 heroes on Pegasi, 3 wizards, all of whom on Pegasi, and all of whom have replaced their Fireball with Lightning Bolt, because it's better. Then I have the Captain on a horse, and finally an ASB with the Loot of Insatiable Darkness. The idea of this list is that, well, I mean, you can see it right there in the top right. It has 16 drops with 35 unit strength, which is pretty insane. And no, I did not actually write this list after I knew it was Dominate. I've been messing around with Kingdoms of Men and Rordia recently, mostly because I've got a back burner project of a bunch of, I think they're Westphalia halflings. But anyway, I loved Kingdoms of Men, and I loved Empire beforehand. I rate Kingdoms of Men as a very powerful army right now. So I thought this would be a good opportunity, and it just happened to be Dominate. So as for the list, the idea here is that with the Fanatic Hordes, they're not going to stick around, but they are fearless, which is amazing. They're 3+ to hit with 30 attacks. They come with Crushing 1, and then they have Wild Charge D3 to give me a little bit of speed. They're not too expensive, and somewhere in the little bit north of 200 range. I think they're like 240 a unit, something like that. And they take items really well. due to their high volume of attacks and their already pretty good ability to hit with that 3+ melee in the wild charge. So I really like these guys. Their natural weakness is mass small arms fire, which is it's so weak at this point. I'm not trying to say, like, I'm not a fan of the change to Elven Archers, but even minus any of that talk, the fact that there's a lot of Def 6 going around, there's a lot of heal going around to remove that pip damage has just sort of, and then the changes to terrain in general has made it so small arms fire, so those bows just aren't as good looking at this point. And if you're, if you're piercing 2 already, then what does the Def 4 matter? So anyway, I brought the 2 Hordes of Fanatics, the 3 Spear Phalanx. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. These guys are insane. They're what make me look at Shock Troops and go, I'd rather just play Kingdoms of Men. Granted, you don't get the crushing, obviously, but you get Phalanx, you get the upgrade to Pikes to give them Ensnare, and then Indomitable Will is such an insanely good item. It's so good. Yeah, I love it. I brought the Scrying Gem to combo with both the fact that I have 16 drops and the Captain. So I make you drop D3 plus 1 units, I get to redeploy D3 units, and then I have a huge number of units anyway. So yeah, that's the core concept. And then the rest of the army is pretty much just chaff. In my opinion, everything is chaff in the game. I'm definitely a War Machine player at heart, which is anything that dies and doesn't lose you the game is chaff. But Kingdoms of Men really take it to the next level in that all their units are either on the bad end of the scale or that, solid, C average kind of a unit. And that just makes them, in terms of offensive output, so it makes it so the army itself lends itself really well to just being a pile of nonsense that you throw into the grinder. So that's what I brought. Anyway, let's move into the game itself. So first off, a reminder of Dominate. Very simple scenario. At the end of the game, you add up the unit strength of all units with the majority of their footprint within 12 inches of the center of the play. That's your victory point score, and then your opponent does the same, and you compare. The highest one wins. I should mention that we're using the Northern Kings rule packet, meaning that you get a bonus. It's not a head-to-head for all your bonuses, so you have your win-loss draw, so 15, 10, or 5 points, and then you get bonus points based off of what you do, and it really has nothing to do with your opponent. So you get up to plus 5 points based off of the number, in Dominate, based off of the number of units you have in the circle, not the unit strength, or whether you dominated it or not. So if I put 5 Pegasi into the center of the field, and my opponent has their entire army there, well, I still get plus 5 points at the end of the game. Then you also get up to, I think it's plus 6, plus 5, whatever it is, for killing. So it's just it's not a differential, it's just how many points did you kill. So that's the idea, and let's move into the table. So we've got a pretty simple table here. I did use the Epic Dwarf pack for rolling off. I'm actually not a huge fan of this train, but I'll get into that as I show it off. First, we have the circle, just showing the Dominate area. It's actually quite large. That 12-inch radius really stretches. So actually, it's a bit bigger than this. The circle should go to that 12, or right before that 12-inch mark. But anyway, moving on. Here we have 2 height 9 forests, because we were kind of playing with the Masters rules pack. I know that my opponent apparently plays with someone that uses an interesting change to hills, but I'll get to that when we talk about them. So we've got 2 height 9 forests. We have 2 height flat pieces. I think we actually played them as height 1, but it ends up being irrelevant, so I'll just put down the height flat here. Then we have 2 height 3 hills, and this is what apparently my opponent here very commonly plays with height 4 hills. And honestly, I would never do that if I were given the option, right? I would never build a rule pack with height 4 hills, and it's because chariots are not very, I shouldn't say they're not very good. A lot of chariot units aren't very good due to their irregular status, due to their reduction in range, and blah, blah, blah. They're not the powerhouses that they were. I can understand why you wanted to run them a little taller before, but now it just makes it so one of the chariot's main strengths and large cap's main strengths is being able to see over a hill, and honestly, I think they pay enough for it. So anyway, we're just using the Master Pack, so height 3 hills, or US Masters. I should say that my opponent, it is an international tournament, but I was just playing another guy on the east coast of the United States, so it was pretty easy to get our game together with only I think 2.5 hour difference, maybe a 3 hour difference, depending on where they are. Anyway, we've got 2 height 2 obstacles, and then finally 2 height 7 impassables. So that's the terrain of the table, and moving into deployment. So here we see the beginning of deployment. I normally label all the units, but given how small these things are, those labels are not going to be terribly useful, so I'm just going to go through them one by one. First, we have my opponent's side of the table. Right here, we have the first Balefire Catapult over there. Then we have the first Regiment of Scavengers, the Regiment of Revenant Cav with the J-Boots. We have the Cursed High Priest with Heal, Weakness, and Surge. We have the unit of Enslaved Guardians with no upgrades. Then we've got the Monolith right here. We've got 2 Mummy regiments. We have the Soul Snare. We have the Pharaoh with the Eternal Guardian upgrade, so giving these 3 units all elite. We have the second Balefire. We have the second Horde of Enslaved Guardians with the +1 speed. We have Shobik, and then finally we have the last Regiment of Scavengers. And then on my side of the field, I'll get to it in 1 second. I did roll a maximum roll for my Scrying Gem, so my opponent had to put down 4 units. I believe they chose this block right here. So or maybe they didn't put down the Soul Snare, but I think maybe the Monolith. But anyway, it was 4 of these 5 units went down. And moving forward, yeah, you can see, if you look down here, I have a unit of Pikes and then a unit of Fanatics. These are the Fanatics with Pathfinder. So I rolled a 2 for the number of units I can redeploy. Maybe I rolled a 3, I can't remember. But I think it was a 2. So I just take the Pathfinder Fanatics, put them over here, and then I put Pikes over here, which was kind of the idea. If I had rolled a 1, I would have done something a little bit different, but I was really going like, well, as long as I roll a 2, I can do this. I actually messed up my deployment right here because I crashed while deploying. Everyone in the house is on teleconference, and it's just a nightmare. So, yeah, the United States doesn't have great infrastructure, it turns out. So, anyway, so I did mess it up. Originally, I left just enough room to put a Horde over here. So the idea was if I only rolled a 1 with the Captain's redeploy, I would have taken the unit of Pikemen here and just redeployed them over here. So Horde, I would have left the Fanatics right there and then just put these Pikes right there. So anyway, I rolled a 2, so I get to redeploy a bit more, and then we roll off for turn 1. So turn 1 ends up going to the Empire of Dust. They mostly move forward, right? It's an undead turn 1. They don't even run. They just move forward. And as I said before, I wanted to talk a bit about the terrain here. I think it's a little too dense in the center. I've been looking at these Epic Dwarf packs, and the other game I played ended up with no terrain in the center. So it's interesting, but I don't know. I look at this and I'm like, well, how do I get hordes down the field, right? And the answer is run over walls and into forests. Especially as Epic Dwarf packs were made with version 2 in mind, I think they might need a bit of a revisit. But anyway, it's not a bad table at all, but it's definitely something that I wouldn't go like, yay, right? This is not particularly great for me. As it is a dominate scenario as well, so we have some of this dominate area, especially with this house here, being eaten. So I'm not a huge fan of that. Anyway, we've got the Empire of Dust moving forward. On the left side, yeah, they I guess the Scavengers didn't move anywhere near how far they could, just staying at a 20 of my Wizards, which is, who cares. But yeah, these guys just move forward. These Cav are on that wall, but they do have J-Boots, so they can always charge over it. We've got the Mummies moving as fast as they can. No one is casting Surge right now, and we move on to the shooting. So we start with this Balefire Catapult, firing a shot into one of my Pegasi, just a hero on a Pegasus, and missing it. And then we've got this Balefire, I believe, hitting with both of its shots onto my Fanatics. Maybe it hit with it hit with an amount, and ends up doing 4 wounds to me. So I think it only hit with 1 shot, but it rolled max, so it got 4 wounds. And lastly, we've got the Cursed High Priest slapping weakness onto this Pegasus. I guess, I mean, why not cast it? We weren't playing on clock or anything like that, so it wasn't too bad. But yeah, it's just one of those throwaway spells on turn 1 here. I can't charge with that Pegasus. I have no range attack, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, we move into Kingdoms of Men turn 1. So, Kingdoms of Men turn 1, I also just sort of meander forward, although a little bit faster, because I can actually add the double. First off, on the left, both of my wizards just stay over here. They back up a little bit, actually, to be out of 20 of these birds. Then we have my pikemen here getting onto the hill. I am outside of 12 of the enslaved guardians, so I can't be charged by them unless my opponent goes for a pretty big surge. They do have a lot of surge, right? So they've got surge 8, and I believe the monolith is also surge 8. The Ammonite Pharaoh, I believe, is surge 5 or 6. But yeah, this surge 16, right? That could get them the 7 inches they need to get to the pikes, and it's not even a particularly difficult surge. But I'm also not too afraid of that, because I don't think the enslaved guardians can get it done alone if they go in. I have a flank charge set up with some polearms, and then if the cav go into me, even though they can J-boots to ignore this wall, I'm still phalanx, I'm still ensnared, so they're hitting me on 6s and have no thunderous charge, while the enslaved guardians are hitting me on 4s with crush 2, and that's really the only thing. And then even if they waver me, I can use Indomitable Will to just shrug that off. So yeah, I'm not really worried about that at all, but I don't want to get double charged for nothing. I want my opponent to have to waste spells if he wants to do it, especially as they could fail, and then I have even better charges. So anyway, I set that up. I just maintain a battle line right here, just to, I don't know, surge shenanigans. It's a good habit. I didn't need to do this right now, but I also didn't need to do anything else. I wanted my horde of fanatics here to have their maximum line of sight. I actually messed up a little bit here, which is I thought I didn't drag my line of sight as well as I could have. I could have backed up just a smidge with these guys and gained a better line of sight here, because they have the wild charge and Pathfinder. I'm just looking to abuse that as much as I can. Over here, I ran forward. I actually think I ran forward a little too far, because we had started a little late, and I still had to go. I had errands to run after this game, and I knew it was going to take us a while, because my opponent told me that they haven't played that many games of Kings of War, which, you know, that's whatever. But I also haven't used Universal Battle really at all, and it is, in my experience, a little clunky, so it makes the games run a little longer. So I was not moving as perfectly as I should. So anyway, I moved these polearms forward. I just stayed out of the natural charge of the mummies, I believe. And speaking of poor movement, I left my ASB here, and my opponent and I were like, wow, that's a really hard model to see. Then I immediately forgot about it. They were a supremely good sport, though, and just went, yeah, as long as we're going to play, you know, like, takebacks are okay. Yeah, just move it a little bit, because I wanted, obviously, to inspire my unit. But anyway, so that's that. Off here on the right, I move my pikemen into the forest. I'm going to admit that I actually forgot these enslaved guardians had speed 7. Yeah, that's another mistake. I could have backed up. There's no reason to get charged here, right? I've got militias set up for the countercharge. Who cares? And Shobik doesn't care about the forest and can block, I think, the enslaved guardians from ever entering it. Yeah, so it's just a mistake. I just forgot what my opponent had for items. You know, shows what you get for that. I did move my Pegasus a little bit into the woods here. I'm just trying to mess with these birds. There's nowhere to land on my side of the field because 20 inches is right about here. So they can't land outside of one of me unless they want to land over here. And if they land over there, my polearms can charge them. So that's the idea. And then if they want to charge my Pegasus in the woods, go ahead. And yeah, that's gonna be it for my movement. And then with my shooting, I have Lightning Bolt 9. Oh, messed that up. So yeah, I fire Lightning Bolt 9. Oh, the wound marker's already out. So I fire Lightning Bolt 6 without any obfuscation. I think they actually do the 2 wounds. This is a 5+ to hit it, and I miss. No, I actually couldn't shoot at the birds because these guys are on the hill blocking my line of sight. So I think I shoot at, I don't know, probably this wizard. And I don't roll any 5s anyway, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, I only did 2 wounds here. It's, you know, it's what you get for Lightning Bolt 6. And it's not, the 2 wounds isn't bad, right? It's just 2 wounds is not really all that relevant for a Life Leech 2 unit next to a heal 5 guy. So, anyway, moving into turn 2. So turn 2 for the Empire of Dust, things are getting aggressive. We've got the birds flying forward, just threatening the flank on my pikemen. The cav here, like, yeah, that's a terrible charge, and just move forward, keeping pace with the Enslaved Guardians, who are now forcing my charge. The wizard obviously stays back a little bit, so I can't actually charge it with anything, which is always a smart move. I don't have any flying individuals, so always good. And then we've got the middle. We've got the middle of the field here. So the mummies are moving forward. I'm not sure I understand this formation here. You know, like setting things up not in an exact line is good because you can get those flank charges for free, right? But I'm not sure I see why go forward this far. I don't have that many flying abilities here to get into anything. I know the Soul Snare is trying to get the perfect 18-inch onto my Fanatics, but otherwise I don't see anything. I don't see the reason why. There is one other thing that I noticed after when I was taking my turn after this for my opponent, which is these Enslaved Guardians. If we go back 2 pictures, so they're right here. I feel like what they could have done is move this wizard maybe over here a little bit, right? Just to clear some space, because these Enslaved Guardians are still speed 6. They could have pivoted, gone 6, and then gone for that double surge I just talked about to set up a flank onto these pikemen, right? So they've even got 3 surgers, so that's like surge 22 or some ridiculous amount. That's a pretty good go at it. And something I didn't see when I was moving, and that's why I shouldn't have been so blasé about how far forward I was going here. Even if I stay this, you know, like this far, I'm still threatening the center. Those mummies aren't going to come in anytime soon because neither of us can charge each other with the same charge range, and I could have stopped that from being possible, I believe. But anyway, I didn't, but thankfully my opponent didn't see it, so there's always that. Yeah, so yeah, we talked about the mummies here, and then over here on the right flank, again, there's just no reason to be this close, and it's just a simple mistake of forgetting that they had speed 7. If I had remembered it, I could have stayed back a little bit. Maybe the birds still charge me, but who cares? I have ensnare, and they probably land in the woods. So anyway, that is a mistake, and I'm gonna have to deal with it. That is a triple charge, and as you can see, because of that triple charge, yeah, they're you know, these go nowhere near the woods, which is a problem. And we get into shooting. So if we walk back, we've got this catapult again hitting my Fanatics, doing 2 more damage to them, so they're up to 6. We've got the Soul Snare adding some damage, getting them up to 10, which is bad. The Soul Snare is the only thing that I was like, yeah, I wish I was def 4. But even then, I believe you can actually see the roll over here. Yeah, that would have half the damage, just because it's a bad roll. But anyway, yeah, it's the only time I was like, man, I wish I was def 4. But that's about it. Obviously, I didn't know what my opponent was playing when I built the list. And yeah, I think that... Oh wait, that's it for shooting. I think this fired into... Oh no, that's not it. Yeah, this did fire into my pikeman on the hill, did 3 damage to him, which I guess is a thing. And that's going to be it for shooting. No one breaks, obviously. No one gets box cards, so we're good to go. And then in combat, all 3 of these units manage 12 damage. I'm not sure if that's, you know, like in the average or not. Like the Enslaved Guardians, I have Ensnare, so, you know, they do like 9 hits, 8 wounds with that exact average. Shobik does 5... Yeah, 13 birds. It's probably a little low, actually, but my opponent at least gets the waiver here, which again is low. But yeah, I got the waiver, so I guess that's something. And that'll be it. So we go into turn 2 for the Kingdoms of Men. So turn 2, Kingdoms of Men. Yeah, just showing this bit of a close-up here. And it's... Yeah, so we've got these militia, which can charge in the flank of the Enslaved Guardians. Yeah, if this unit was pole arms, that might actually be a threat. That's 24 attacks, you know, with crush 1, that'd be pretty good. But this is 24 attacks on 5s with no crushing, so yeah, that's not going to do a whole lot. Just shows my lack of experience with the army. I also get a countercharge with my wavered unit because, again, Indomitable Will is ridiculous. I shrug the waver off, pop the ability, and now I'm also inspired in case the captain wants to leave. So yeah, I end up countercharging into the Enslaved Guardians, so that might do something, right? This is 30 attacks on 4s and 5s, and I've got 24 attacks on 5s and 5s. Yeah, maybe I can do something with that. And oh, and just so you know, yeah, I could not get a combo charge with these two into the Enslaved Guardians. It was not possible due to, again, these guys. So they actually couldn't back up out of the way or do anything. It was just a whole mess. And here is, yeah, just showing off. Oh, this is showing this. So, yeah, as I say, not pointing at anything. So these fanatics right here, you might be like, well, what's so dangerous about them? Well, again, they have Wild Charge. So they are within 13 inches of these mummies, right? So that's the 13 mark right there. I roll my D3, I get a 3, so I do have the full 13-inch charge. I can see the mummies. Oh, that's a bad line. But I can see the mummies, just believe me. So I can see the mummies, and I am in, you can't see it right now because I didn't measure it on this picture, but I am in their flank. So it's really bad. I pull the pikes back a little bit. They could have charged in the front, but it wouldn't have allowed this unit to charge. So I pull the pikes back a little bit, and yeah, I go for that flank charge, obviously. It might have... In retrospect, I mean, I end up going for this flank because I've got it, and it's easy money, but it might have behooved me to actually go into the Pharaoh that I can also see and is also in my charge range. And on the overrun, I wouldn't get a flank because I'm going to hit this unit first, I think. No, because I'd have to slide. Huh. Yeah, maybe I should have gone for the Pharaoh. Anyway, I don't. I go for the mummies. So at least I'm removing unit strength. That's always a good idea. And yeah, just showing the final placement. That's a mean charge. I do go for, let's see if yeah, so I showed this. No, that's the wizard. Okay, so I don't, it looks like I didn't get a picture of it, but if we roll back, this Pegasus right here, there's another thing going on. So my Pegasus is height 4, and I am in the flank of this Soul Snare. And if we were to zoom in on where the Soul Snare is, the mummies are just, oops, it's a terrible line. The mummies are just not flush with it. And I asked my opponent, because he had given me the ASB go back, right? So he let me move it, and I asked him, did you mean to be flush with the rear of that unit? Because if you did, just feel free, right? Just fix it real quick, because I definitely have a flank charge. And he doesn't, so that's, you know, I don't have that many attacks, but still a flank charge onto that Soul Snare, I shut it down for a turn. I don't even care about killing it, I just care about doing that one wound. But unfortunately for me, this area right here is about 49 and some change millimeters, so it's just barely too small for the 50 mil large cab base to fit there. And I was like, damn, I thought I had some tricksy things here, but yeah, saved by the bell, I guess. So instead, we walk forward, and the Pegasus here just charges into these Enslaved Guardians to hold them up for a turn. This is another one of those things where I'm like, I'm not sure this was worth it. I think this, because I was holding them up, but holding them up from what? Again, as I said before, this is a terrible charge for them to do. Even with 3 wounds on me, it's just, I'm not really afraid of it. This, again, I don't care about, because I have Fanatics back here to finish you if you go into them, and it's a hinder charge because of the trees. So I think what I should have done with this Pegasus is instead moved it forward into the forest and forced him to either surge charge me, or just let me threaten this backline, right? So in fact, I could have just flown 20 forward and then pivoted. Like, it doesn't matter how I do this, but anyway, it's not what I did. I went for the chap approach and charge into the Enslaved Guardians. And over here, yeah, just showing off that both my wizards right here are hiding from the line of sight of these birds, so they cannot charge them. It's actually a real bitch, because there's a little... let's see if I can go back. Yeah, so see this symbol, this pivot symbol? it's always right there on the unit, and it can end up spilling off the table, and you can't select it. As far as I can tell, I can't zoom out to grab it. I can't change the aspect ratio to try to grab it, so it's kind of a pain in the butt. But anyway, I end up getting it to work and pivot, as you can see. I move these fanatics back. Again, I expect to get charged. If you charge into my pikes, that's suicide. If you charge into the pole arms, it's actually worse. The birds go here, can kill them. I'm just keeping the fanatics back. With the rest of my movement in the middle, you can see it. I move my ASB right here just to keep these units inspired. The captain is keeping all of this inspired. So yeah, because very inspiring is great. I guess I'm not inspiring this. And lastly, yes, this Pegasus did have a flank charge on these birds and got a hindered flank. I did think at this point that they had 4 attacks each, which is why I went for this. In retrospect, knowing now that they have 3, I would have just flown up onto this hill and again pivoted down the line so I could just charge whatever I wanted. But hindsight, 2020, should have spent more time thinking, I guess. And over here, with my shooting, I do Bane Chant this unit because I need these mummies gone. So it's a bit of a long one. I am just barely within 12 here, and then I can see the back of the unit. So yeah, I can cast Bane Chant, so I get that going. And in the shooting phase, I've got plenty of Lightning Bolt. I could have gone for the birds, and if I had been able to see with this third wizard, I just couldn't place the wizard well enough. Oh, it looks like my my fanatics did move forward a little bit, but anyway, just to get their leader point onto the hill so I can see over in case I need to double charge or whatever. But yeah, so if I could get this third one to be able to see the birds, it's almost certainly the better choice. But instead, I go for the big boom of killing this Cursed High Priest, because if I kill the Cursed High Priest, this flank, which is already mine, I'm pretty likely to win this flank, but it just crumbles immediately, right? And this is probably the thing I can't get. So I fire the lightning bolts, I do 3 damage, and I don't roll the 10 to kill it, which is fine. And we go into combat. So in combat, yeah, this unit's got 60 attacks on 3s and then crushing 2. I did go through the forest, but again, I have Pathfinder. So yeah, I've got 3s and 3s with 60 attacks. That is a lot. I end up doing quite a bit of damage. If you look up here, yeah, I end up doing 23 damage to those mummies. I do not double one it with either of my rolls, and then I turn them in towards the game. It would have been really big if I had been able to silence this soul snare, because I've got 10 wounds on me, but I don't know, mummies are a 4+ unit. This Pharaoh is really dangerous to that unit, but mummies are a 4+ unit, so they could always just, do mummy things, do 4+ things, and fail it. So yeah, anyway, we go into the bottom right combats, and first off, we've got this guy charging in, doing 2 wounds to the birds. That's not, it's fine. It's actually a pretty good roll, because even at 4 attacks, which I thought I had, that's 8 attacks on 4s to hit because I'm hindered, and then I wound on 3s because scavengers are def 4. So 2 wounds is pretty good. I do later tell my opponent that I rolled too many dice. I tell him to take both the wounds just off because it doesn't matter. Oh no, I actually did 3 wounds. I rolled really well. This is after Shobek's Iron Resolve. So yeah, because I don't waver them. So I did 3 wounds, and I left my opponent with 2, and my opponent goes like, I'll just leave 1 on them. So again, really nice guy. And then the other combat with the Enslaved Guardian, unfortunately, I do 0 wounds. I mean, I did 1 wound, I guess. I did 1, but Iron Resolve it off. So yeah, the Fanatics do what I thought they do, which is don't hit at all. But then I've got 30 attacks here. 30 attacks on 4s and 5s, and I did 1 wound. So, just a bit of bad dice happens. And anyway, let's move forward. So into turn 3. So turn 3. Oh, I will mention, I did think that the pike's at 25 attacks at this point, so I only rolled 25 of my 30. But still, 1 wound out of 25 is also pretty egregiously bad. And into turn 3 for the Empire of Dust. So Empire of Dust, yeah, the Enslaved Guardian charges into my Pegasus, or counter charges. I did actually roll 0 here, but again, I rolled 4 attacks, so that's what you get for cheating. You do 0 wounds. So, yep, goes in real quick. The Mummies and the Pharaoh go into my Fanatics, probably also just going to hit me with that Soul Snare real quick. We've got the Enslaved Guardians and Shobik going into the front of the Very Wounded Pikemen, and then these birds countercharging my my Pegasus. Again, there's just no reason to charge those guys. They can't. I'm just stuck in that undead spirit where everything can pivot and charge you because it's all shambling, but scavengers don't. So yeah, bit of a wasted Pegasus there. Moving forward into the shooting, so we've got what is this? Oh, showing the Curse High Priest heals itself, so it has no wounds on it. The birds just fly around into my backfield. This is... I'm not sure I care. Even if they charge me in the rear, right? That's 27 attacks on 5s and then 3s. I just can't be bothered. So anyway, we've got that going. And then in the big combat in the center, I'm already at 10 wounds, right? So I get pushed up to 13 wounds because of the Soul Snare, managing 3 wounds onto me. That's not terribly bad because, again, it's a 4+ to hit thing. It's only got 9 shots, so it's a high variance bit. But yeah, so it puts 3 wounds on me. Then in the then we get into combat because I believe both the mortars miss this turn. Yeah, they both miss. So we get into the center combat first. Oh no, the far right combat. It's a little hard with UB because I didn't. Next time I might zoom in a bit more. But I take these pictures on auto timer, so it just sort of takes a picture when it takes a picture. So on the far right, I've got the Pegasus taking 2 wounds, but thankfully not being wavered. It's disordered, but yeah, 2 wounds. Again, if I just didn't charge it, even if they could charge me, they hit me on 6s. So, yikes. Anyway, in the combat with Shobik, yeah, I already had 12 wounds on me. They roll an amount of wounds and then don't double one it twice. So pop they go. And in the middle combat, yeah, all of this does 2 wounds to me. Just abysmal rolls. Or maybe that was just the mummies. I don't remember. I'm looking at the rolls over here, right? This is the mummies who are hitting me on 5s. So they only hit me 4 times. They did 3 wounds to me. I think this is just wrong. Anyway, it doesn't matter. They pop me, and yeah, so I'm killed off. I actually, if I remember correctly, wouldn't have died if the Soul Snare had not added that damage. Obviously, the Soul Snare was going to. I'm a Def 3 unit, and he needs to kill that unit off to win the game. But yeah, if this hadn't done the 3 damage there, this 6 fails. So, yeah. Anyway, on the far left, we've got the Pegasus versus Eternal or Enslaved Guardians. And yeah, it's just deleted, and they just stay there. They're like, come at me if you want. And we go into turn 3 for the Kingdoms of Men. So turn 3 Kingdoms of Men, we oblige. We go at them. So we've got the pikes going in the front unhindered. We've got hindered polearms, and we're just gonna have to make do with that. I believe I did roll this because I might be within 13 of the cav, but I don't roll high enough if I am. And with the rest of my movement, I take these polearms. These polearms, and this is the next mistake I think I made with the list, which is, so I take the polearms and these militia, and charge into the front of the Enslaved Guardians. What I think I should have done is just charge with the polearms into the Enslaved Guardians. The militia aren't going to do anything, and backed up the militia. So the idea being that the polearms are just here to die. They'll trap Shobik and this for a turn. The birds can do whatever they want, but I honestly don't care what the birds do at this point. What I need to be doing is slowing this down more than I am, because I made that error of getting charged on turn 2. I need to be now slowing this, which is, I did realize I made the error with my Pegasus now, but it might be a little too late. But anyway, I walk off from the birds. I'm not going to fight them. Oh, no, that's right. The birds couldn't charge this way because they're facing like this to fight my Pegasus. So yeah, I definitely should have just charged with the polearms and then backed the militia up, so I have a second wave to go back in after the polearms die. And who knows, I might even survive 1 round of combat. If I survive it, a second round to kill me, and then the third to do the militia, and so on and so forth. There aren't that many turns left. If I can delay them for 3 turns, that's the game, right? So anyway, I don't. And we go into the last charge of the turn, which is a very similar one, which is also polearms, or pikes and militia into the front of the mummies. It might look like my mummies or my pikes are touching that wood. We zoomed very close. I am just barely not touching it, even after messing with the alignment of these units to get it perfect. So anyway, which this is not perfect. We just eventually went like, yeah, let's stop touching it. But anyway, these guys are hindered for charging over a wall, so they're hitting on 6s. Who cares? I could have just not charged with them, I guess, but nah, who cares? Again. And then I move, I believe, yep, okay, so here's the rest of my movement. I move my Fanatics onto the hill to get that sweet Thunderous 1. I move both of these wizards to shoot at these birds. I move this wizard for some reason. Well, the idea is, again, I'm going for the Soul Snare, but I mean, I probably need to deal with these birds first, but, you know, I did what I did, live on that edge. So, yeah, I've got some shots if I want. And that's going to be that, yeah, like I said before, the Pegasus disengaged from the birds and then just ran 10 forward. And that's it, yeah, so let's go into the shooting. So in shooting, both of these wizards fire into the birds. They do 2 wounds. Scavengers are an 11-13, so I need to, you know, just called shot, roll an 11, and boom, I do. Which is right there. Which is what I said in this thing, which makes me kind of sound like an asshole. Which is, I was just trying to make a joke. I was like, yeah, called shot 11, and I rolled it. So, yeah, at least I've got that. I killed those birds off. That'll show them. And then we move into the close combats. So on the left, yeah, yikes. Just blow right through these guys. So I don't have Bane Chant, but I do have +1 Crushing, or +1 Thunderous for charging down the hill. I've got 30 attacks. 30 attacks on, yeah, actually, if you look over here on the left, I left it on D3, and I was like, did I just roll a 3 high? And, no, I didn't. So I re-roll it after this. I blow right through these guys. It's ridiculous how many wounds I get through. Even the pikes end up contributing, so that's really good for me. That's this is the hard combat of the turn. So I've won both of these fights on the left, which I have no business getting doing 1 round. So I'm pretty happy about that. In the middle, though, I roll not great. It's not the worst. I don't have... Did I not? I'm pretty sure I Bane Chanted. Maybe the token... I've got the token over here. Maybe I failed Bane Chant this turn? I don't remember failing Bane Chant, but anyway, I think I Bane Chanted these. So that's 30 attacks on 4s and 4s, and then whatever, 6s and 5s, who cares, with 12 attacks. But 30 attacks on 4s and 4s, I did 5 wounds. It's not that bad. It's within the realm of variance, but still, I need to be getting a few more wounds onto these mummies right now because there is a Soul Snare, there is a healer, they've got regen, they've got all the things, right? And I just want a bit higher on that variance scale at this point in time. But still, again, pretty good turn. I got rid of the birds, I got rid of the enslaved guardians. Looks like I'm gonna pretty easily win the left flank. I'm holding in the center and I'm holding on the right. I could have been holding a bit better on the right had I been smarter, but here we are. And yeah, speaking of that right combat, I ended up doing 3 wounds to the enslaved guardians. I actually rolled 4 wounds, I believe, on them total. But at the end of it, Shobik, Iron resolves one of them back, so they're down to 3. And we move into turn 4. So turn 4 for the Empire of Dust starts with this. My opponent tries, the classic tricksy undead move, which is, can they pivot to the right and then get into my flank? The answer is no for 2 different reasons. One is that if you look here, this line is perfectly bisecting the unit, and its leader point is to the right, meaning that they're in my front, right? But also, if you surge right here, you will just surge into my front. You have to actually hit the corner. So were this a nimble unit, and they slid to the right 4 and then pivoted, right? So they end up pivoting like this a little bit. They can actually just pivot very slightly if they want, like this or whatever, to hit the corner before they hit my frontage, right? They could get a flank charge that way, but it's not viable for 2 different reasons, which is the 2 things I just said. Anyway, we've got a charge here. The mummies, they only regen 1 wound back, so at least I've got that, right? The mummies are not doing terribly well with that regen. Hopefully the soul slam will fail, then they'll not do well in the combat, and then I can get them, right? It's just as easy as that. So yeah, they charge into the front of the pikes. The Pharaoh could have charged into the pikes as well, but decides instead to go into the militia, which is fair enough. I would bet on the Pharaoh over militia anyway. Actually, if you look in the back, the captain is within charge range of the Pharaoh. I had to get that close to get the rally bubble on these guys, which I really wanted because I needed them not to be gone. I didn't want to have to pop this for a waiver and so on and so forth. So yeah, I moved to where you can see me. The Pharaoh could have charged me, but would have ended up on this wall, right? I believe the captain is a 14-16, no, 13-15. That's another thing. Rally says it works on all units within 6. I know it used to not work on itself. I think it doesn't, right? Because it still has that clause of units are not within their own bubble, which is why auras say that. Anyway, so yeah, the captain is a 13-15. But it's a hindered charge with a Pharaoh. It's only got 5 attacks, so 4+ with elite, and then, you know, wounds me on a 3+. And if it goes over here, I believe it also leaves the 6-inch bubble, which is not, it's not that bad for the Inspire because the monolith is still back there, but losing the elite is not where you want to be. So yeah, I was just trying to bait my opponent a little bit here into charging into the captain, because I don't think the captain will die. I don't think the captain will fight him. I will immediately leave, but it'll allow these guys to go into the flank of the mummies, which is a bit better, or into the soul snare, or into a lot of things. So anyway, moving forward, you can see this is what all the charges look like. Yeah, my opponent does charge with the cav on the left here, aligning to their hero because they don't want to slide to the right, I guess. Trying to escape the polearms. And then we've got the mummies here, the Pharaoh there, the Enslaved Guardian, I believe, countercharges in a, oh no, that'll happen in a second. First, we've got the Wizard moving behind the cav now that they've fixed the alignment. And then, yeah, here's the double charge. We've got Enslaved Guardians into the front here. We've got Shobik into the front there. And then the birds just turn around and fly over. Yeah, this just shows it would have been so much better if I just layered them. I've got to get better at that. I'm still living in a Warhammer world of damage. But anyway, so this is what we end up doing. And let's get into the guns. So in shooting, my opponent opens by firing the Soul Snare into my pikeman. Does not roll well, only manages 2 wounds, but at least gets that 2 heal, so, you know, double duty going off here. And then with the rest of shooting, we've got, yeah, so we've got this Balefire here. I really needed to not hit. It unfortunately does hit my Pegasus, only does 2 wounds to it. I'm a 10-12, so an 8 to kill, but my opponent rolls a 9 and just kills it in one go, and I'm like, damn it. So things are going a little bit his way with the with these artillery. Just been doing really well, and it's not that they're not rolling ridiculously. It's just they're a high variance unit. They're getting their variance in the beginning of the game, right, when they're doing it, and these nerve checks are really paying off. So I love these. I love Balefire catapults. I love getting 2 of them, and I actually, you know, really like having Shattering as well. But anyway, I digress. Moving forward, the other one, I believe this one fires into my guys here, doing 3 wounds. The Wizard also weakens them because I'm on the hill, so I'm taller than the cav are. So yeah, I'm weak, but I'm not sure that matters because they also have the brute strength. And here we go in combat. We've got the Pharaoh going first, doing 3 wounds to my militia. Not too much, but that's okay. With the, and then the, I forgot to show this, which is the mummies. Yikes, they only managed 2 wounds. That's really bad, but they're only hitting me on 5s, so 12 attacks on 5s with elite. You know, you can't expect that much. So anyway, the Pharaoh gets 3 wounds through. My opponent has not used Life Leech yet. I remind him of it at the end of the turn, so he just goes back and does it, which is fine. And over here, yeah, the Enslaved Guardians delete the militia right there. It should be a pretty easy one. They're not hindered. I don't have Ensnare, so yeah. And then Shobik goes into the pole arms and does 5 wounds to him. Thankfully doesn't waver them, does not roll high enough. I believe that I think I might have Rally on them. I can't remember. But either way, I'm not wavered. And that'll be that. So we move into turn 4 for the Kingdoms of Men. So we've got my Pegasus here, which is a wizard. Again, same thing with Soul Snare, which is I can see the Soul Snare. You can see me measuring the line of sight here. I can see the Soul Snare. I'm in its flank, and this time, instead of the mummies, the monolith is not blocking the flank, and there's no unit back here to block me, so I'm going to get that charge. It's a 50-50, right, because I've got 3 attacks against a war engine with my wizard. I hit on 5s and I wound on 4s, right? So going for that 50-50. We've got the pole. I think this is showing the pole arms now going for a they're going for a flank charge. So they go for the flank, and then I've got a double front here with the what are these guys? Fanatics and pikes going into the horsemen. In retrospect, I didn't need all these things. I think the pikes and the polearms are probably enough, and if we walk a picture back, I think honestly I should have just taken this unit, turned it, and walked 5 towards the center of the field. But you know, I've never played this army before. I like to stress test things. I was in a tournament, but I still like to, and it should be fine. But in retrospect, again, these are small things that cause you to lose the game, and it's mostly a positioning thing, which is I should have just turned them, walked over here. I don't have Pathfinder, but it's still better to be pushing over here. The Cav can't do anything. I'm going to grind them out because they're never going to beat this unit with 6s to hit, no bonus to wound, no Bane chant. Even if they get healed, I mean, the best thing would just be to catapult them instead and sit in front of them and heal the Cav. So anyway, yeah. And I go for the triple charge. I am weak, but I'm thunderous for charging down a hill. So I'm +3, -1, so I'm +2. So this is 30 attacks on 3s and 3s, and this is 30 attacks on 4s and 5s. And then I have a Bane Chant as well that I can throw on. But that's probably going to go over here. And then, of course, these guys, which are hindered, right? But it's 24 attacks on 5s and 4s. In the middle, I go for the double countercharge. So I countercharge into the Pharaoh, I countercharge into the mummies. They're down to 1 wound, which is not great, but I might be able to pull something off. I go for the countercharge here into Shobik. I originally was going to charge into the Enslaved Guardians, because if I disengage 1, I'm in their front. I can go this way. But this is basically what I was talking about before with holding people up, and it could have been done with the militia with the polearms before, and then the militia this turn, right? So the polearms could have just parked themselves like this, blocking the units, gotten killed, and then I could have taken the militia and done the exact same thing, right? So anyway, it is what it is. I do have 5 wounds on me, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal. It's more of just correct order of operations, because without 5 wounds, it doesn't matter if both these units charge into me. I should be dead. So anyway, moving on. Yeah, this is just showing no, maybe it was a flank charge. Maybe that's why I didn't do it. I wouldn't have done it anyway, because I need to charge Shoik, but oh no, that's there in my flank. Yeah, that doesn't matter. And yeah, moving forward, I just take the captain, I run off. These guys don't need to be inspired. It's going to be a double 1 twice. Who cares? So I run off over here to inspire these guys and give them a rally. So we get into the shooting phase. I've got my wizards just moving up. They have no real targets. I could have targeted the catapults. Doesn't do a whole lot. I could have targeted this wizard. Again, 5s to hit. Doesn't do a whole lot. I could have gotten on a hill and been 4s to hit, but it's 6 shots, right? Just not going to do. So instead, what I do is place one of them behind the hill, momentarily forgetting that I'm tall enough that this can see me anyway. So I'm like, but it also doesn't really matter. I just want to have good line of sight to block things. I don't particularly care about shooting my lightning bolt. Just I'm essentially a gargoyle unit that doesn't do any damage. And then this one just runs forward. It doesn't quite touch the woods because obviously I don't have Pathfinder, so I can't fly in there. And then I'm just, again, doing the same thing, which is I'm going to fly over and be annoying on the next turn. So let's move into shooting. I have basically none. I do have 1, though, which is I get the Bane Chant this time. So yeah, 30 attacks on 4s, and then I've got 4s to wound. They only have 1 damage on them, so I'm going to need a pretty good spike here to get it done. So let's get into combat itself. Starting on the left, I do Yeah, so I'm starting with these attacks. This is an obscene number of attacks. I told you before, it's 30 attacks on 3s and 3s. We've got 30 attacks on 4s and 5s, and then 24 attacks on 5s and 4s. So pretty high. I end up doing a ton of wounds, right? So what is that there? 28 wounds? That's a fair number. That's 28 wounds on a, what are they, dash 17 unit? And yeah, so just going for the double ones twice here, and boom. You can't see it in this roll. I don't know where it went, but yep, I double won it. So get that hot double one. Wow, that's bad. That's so bad. And that's just showing you why this unit should not charge, because if I double one here, I might just lose the game because of this, right? This could cause me to lose. And there's just no reason for it, because I will win this fight. There's no reason to not just take this unit and move it over here. So, yep, I get a double one. That sucks. Moving on into the center combat, I've got 30 attacks on 4s and 4s, and boom, I do 7 wounds. So I'm pretty happy with that. But again, this is just, you know, it's 8 wounds on him. I've got no bonus, I've got no dread, no brutal. So it's a 10 twice to kill him, and then they'll regen and heal. So yeah, I do not get it. These guys don't even hurt Shobik. I did 1 wound to the Pharaoh, so you know, take that. But yeah, all these units are still here, and we go into turn 5. So turn 5 for the Empire of Dust. First off, we've got the devastated Cav unit. Devastated. What a terrible roll. Just 0 out of 10, guys. So yeah, devastated. Going into my unit of Fanatics. Probably won't do a whole lot, but you know, I shouldn't have given them the Fanatics anyway. Then we've got the Mummies going into my Pikes. I've got 4 wounds on me. If the Soul Snare... Oh, that's the last thing. Yeah, I go for the 50-50. I did hit with one of my attacks, but I don't roll the 4+, which is a terrible 50-50 to lose. So I'm not... I'm making a lot of mistakes in my play here, but they're pretty minor. The biggest issue for me right now is I'm not hitting my rolls when I need to hit them. This double one obviously is really bad, but it's a double one. Of course it's bad. But then I missed this 50-50. You know, I got 8+ to get killed. But, you know, I'm hitting some stuff too. Like, I got these birds off. You know, I consider both these to be about equal, right? But anyway, yeah, it's not feeling great, and mostly due to my own mistakes. So, yeah, what are you going to do? With my opponent's charges, yeah, this is double charge down here. You can see the scavengers just moving forward into the center for a fight. And here is... yeah, these guys countercharging into my Fanatics. And that's going to be it. Oh, this showing off the Soul Snare has just moved forward. It disengaged for me and moved to get more draining in. And so it drains, and it does terribly. So first off, my opponent rolls regen. Rolls terribly. Only regens 2 out of the 7. I guess it's not that bad, but it's not great. Or 2 out of the 8. So yeah, only gets 2, and then goes for the drain, and only gets 2. So only 2. That's, you know... But every bit counts, I guess. So gets that through, and we go and and then we've got the catapults. I believe the catapults shoot at the captain on 6s and miss, and then these catapults fire into my Pikes. And did they do those 3? No, those 3 wounds were already there. So we're just gonna sit on it, and we go into combat. These Fanatics actually take quite the beating. I think these Cav have 16 attacks on 4s, and then they wound me on 3s because they don't have Thunderous, and they end up doing 4 wounds to me. So, pretty good. In the middle, I believe it will be next. Yeah, these guys, they only managed 2 wounds, these mummies. Granted, again, they're fighting an ensnaring unit, their worst enemy for undead. But yeah, only managed 2 wounds on me. I'm pretty happy with that. And then the Pharaoh goes into my Fanatics and manages 5 wounds, which is great. It's only got 5 attacks, but only wavers me, which is good for me. I mean, obviously, I'd prefer not to have eaten 5 wounds and been wavered, but the militia are just really there to keep the Pharaoh busy. So I'm okay with this. Again, I could have been a little bit more careful with my line of sight on these wizards. I should have flown this one a bit harder forward to threaten the Soul Snare, but it's out of 20. This one can't see, this one can't see. Captain might, but... And then the bottom right combat. Are you sure you want to remove that unit? Yes, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, it gets exploded really easily. The Enslaved Guardians get a pretty good overrun. Running for... Did they? No, they got a terrible overrun. They went 2. So... no, Shobik went 2. They went 3. So yeah, they overrun a little bit. But again, I should have layered a bit better. But in the end here, it doesn't matter, as the Linkin Park story tells us, because they would have rolled through me anyway in one go. So anyway, we go into turn 5 for the Kingdoms of Men. So turn 5, Kingdoms of Men begins with staring at this wizard for some reason. So yeah, I go for the double charge again. These guys end up with a flank charge, so they take it. I send these guys in the front, and then the pole arms just turn all the way around to face towards the center of the field. I countercharge, of course, into the mummies, who are at 2 damage this time, so, you know, if I do the same, it'll be a 9 to get them. These guys just stay engaged, doesn't really matter. And I do mess around with the captain. I actually spend a long time trying to figure out how to get to the soul snare, but it turns out, yeah, with my pivots, I can't hit this corner and I can't hit this corner. So it's just, it's a little too hard for the old captain. But anyway, moving forward, the captain, the captain took a hindered charge into the birds. My idea here is that, one, if I can kill these birds in one go, which is difficult, the captain is hindered, so on 4s and then 3s, because, you know, not the most crushing of characters. But if I can kill the birds, that's amazing. All I really need to do, though, is get them, or stop them from flying. And even better, a waver, right? So if I can get a waver on these birds, it's enormous, because it really gums these 2 units up. As the birds lose nimble, because of them being a regiment, they can't really maneuver around, and so on and so forth. If I at least take out their flying, they're not charging into any of these rears, because of the same reason. They can't really maneuver. And then, if these guys want, or if, yeah, because Shobik can't see me, but Shobik barely can't see the captain, and then these guys charge in. They're a 3+ unit. I don't expect the captain to be able to hold that off. That's 18 attacks on 3s, and then they win me on 3s, right? So it's around 8 damage on average. That's a 7 to kill twice. I don't expect to die, but even if I do die, it's a 6-inch overrun to get into the rear of this unit. So it's just a pretty good contingency, right? As long as I do 1 damage, it's good here. It's really good. And as long as these guys don't spike me in return, it's amazing. So yeah, that's the idea. And even if I kill these, I can overrun. Like, I can do a lot of things, because I'm basically riding the line of Shobik. I can never enter. Well, I guess I could overrun 6 and enter, but anyway, that's the idea. So let's do it. Here is the rest of my movement. Yeah, this wizard getting ready to charge the soul snare a second time. This one also setting itself up. We're gonna go for some shots on the soul snare. All 3 of them can see it. It's gonna be a hard one. It is def 4. I have several. Excuse me. I have 2 of my Pegasi are taking cover negatives while shooting at it, and it is a dash 15. But it's a bit of a go for broke at this point. So we're gonna go for broke. And we do 2 damage to it. It's not going to be enough. Over here on the left, yeah, I actually don't roll a double one this time, and I kill the cap off, but the damage has already been done. You can see I'm really bogged up here. These guys had to turn all the way around. These guys turned. These guys are nowhere near. I'm not even sure if there's a turn 7 they're going to make it into the 12. But anyway, because again, there's a giant forest in the way. Okay, so with the other combats, I did get Bane Chant off, so I have a second chance at getting a decent spike roll here. The mummies have failed to spike me, so I obviously am going to spike them back, right? Well, I've got 30 attacks. I do 5 damage, so I roll below average again. So it's not terrible. It's 5 damage is okay. Right, the problem is that I'm consistently doing that or hitting the average, so I'm just on the bottom end of the scale. And since they can heal and all that, I'm not able to actualize on how poorly the mummies are rolling here, because I'm just rolling pretty back at them. So it's unfortunate. I do 5 wounds to them. It's a 7. That's an 11 to break them. I do not do it. And then I do manage 2 wounds onto the birds. I need an 11 to kill them again. The called shot does not work twice, and I also don't get the waiver. Again, the waiver is really what I want. That would have been very good. Rolling a 9 or a 10 there, but don't get it. And we go into turn 6. So this is going to be a bit of a wild one. So turn 6. Starting with the Empire of Dust, we've got the birds, sidestepping to the left to free up a charge for these guys. We've got the Pharaoh countercharging, or actually just regular charging because I was wavered. These guys countercharging me. I'm not too worried. I'm currently inspired, right? But I'm actually double inspired because I've got the ASB back here too. I forgot about that. So yeah, I'm double inspired. There's no way to target the ASB with any of my opponent's stuff. I mean, you can target with this wizard, but the wizard doesn't have any damage spells, so whatever. So yeah, I'm going to be inspired, and then I can always pop this to remove the waver and go for a second kill on these mummies. So that's going to be it. With the charge, sending these guys into the front of the captain. I'm worried, but not overly so. This is not anywhere near a double 1, and again is around a 7 with very average dice to kill me twice. So it's a little bit in my favor just to hold this, to hold the line. And here we go with, just showing off all the charges, all the movement. You can see the monolith just adjusts itself a little bit, blocking off any flank. I obviously don't, well, I have a wizard flank, but yeah, I can't even see through anyway. And staying just out of my 10-inch charge range, just out of my 13-inch charge range, and nowhere near this. But that double 1. And that's going to be it. This catapult just turns because it has no targets. This catapult has several targets. I believe it's going to end up shooting into my fanatics, who are at 7 wounds. And missing. Yeah, so it looks like the catapult... Hit it? Let's roll. Oh. Yeah, so the catapult missed, and then the other one moved. So we go into the Soul Snare. Soul Snare, going for another round of burning these pikemen. Again, only doing 2 wounds. And again, the regen wasn't terribly great. I believe they were at 7 wounds before, right? They have healed 4, so just not great. The mummies then go for the fight. They're hitting on 5s with Elite. Oh, nope, sure. First, we're gonna, obviously you start with Inspire, right? So we've got the fight down here, 18 attacks on 3s and 3s, but unfortunately, you can see it down here. It's 13 hits. It's 13 hits, converting into 10 wounds, so significantly above average, and then, just rolling the 7 and an 8 anyway, so even if they rolled the average, they would have killed me. So, the captain is dead. On the overrun, rolling a 5. So if they roll a 6, that is a rear charge into my militia. Thankfully, they only roll a 5. So, speaking of the militia, the Pharaoh is now going to fight them. I'm at 8 wounds already, and rolls. I'm not sure what's going on with the 3d6 here, but it doesn't matter. Any of these work, so whatever. I'm sure it meant something. I just don't remember what. Anyway, so these guys are popped. We're gonna go into the big meaty combat though. So I've got 10 wounds on me. I'm a 20-22, and these mummies have been just doing garbage this entire game. So let's see if they can pick it up. And they do. So if you look over here, right? So we've got the mummies fighting me. Oh, this is what the 3d6 is, I think. This was the elite. So they rolled a hit, right? They're hitting me on 5s. 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. They got elite, so they get 3. That converts into 3 hits on a 5. They then sink all 3 wounds, because they wound me on 2s. So I'm at 13 wounds. That's a 9 to kill me. Twice. 10, 9. And, we roll off to see if there's a turn 7. Oh, no, sorry. I've got to move my units, right? So I move forward. Everyone moves. You can see this is the 12, showing none of my units are, well, these flyers are. I actually forgot about the +1 for moving. I probably would have moved this in here, but whatever. And then we roll off for the turn 7, and we don't get it. In fact, I roll it. I roll a 1 right there. So, yeah, I end up losing this game pretty badly. That is, my opponent has 1 unit strength, 3 unit strength, so 4 so far. That's 7 unit strength to my 2. I could have had 3 again, but 7 to 3 is not particularly better. So several things went wrong in this game, and several things were poorly done by me. Mostly smaller things though, right? Like the Pegasus, this Pegasus should have just flown up onto the hill. The Pegasus that I have over here that charged those enslaved guardians, it doesn't matter. I might as well have just flown on by. And then this movement was a big mistake. Going into that double one fight, I was just tempting fate. I had already won that side. I needed to be pushing back into the center. But again, I needed to not roll a double one here, and then I needed my opponent to not roll a 9, and that's what went down. If my opponent doesn't roll that 9, and all the other rolls stand, so the game still ends, and blah, blah, blah. I have one chance at killing these mummies. They're at 2 wounds. I can still get the Bane Chant. I could spike out these dice, right? And I don't need a big spike. Just need a spike. I have several wizards that can charge in as well. I've got 1 rear, 1 flank, no hinder, none of that stuff. So I've got 5 more attacks on 5s, 5s and 5s. I've got 1 thing. I mean, this wizard doesn't matter. Just get them all in there, right? But that puts me at 7 unit strength, right? Again, my opponent only has 7. That's 1, that's 4, that's 7. So if I just don't lose this unit to a 9, I can get it, right? I could win by killing this unit, or I could at least tie by not rolling the 7. And if I do roll the 7, I don't care. You kill this unit off and all my units enter. That's 11 unit strength over there. 11. But wasn't to be. So instead, it's a pretty crippling loss. I killed basically nothing, because all I've got, I've killed 1 unit of scavengers, right? So I killed the scavengers over here. I killed the cav, I killed enslaved guardians, and nothing else. Oh no, and one mummy, right? So I got one mummy there. But most of my opponents, this is almost the entire army, right? So both the catapults are alive, the pharaoh's alive, these mummies are alive, this is alive, right? It's all alive. So yeah, just pretty bad. I got basically no points. I got 2 for having 2 birds here, and then I got 1 for killing. While my opponent got a win, has 1, 2, 3 scoring units, so that's plus 3 points, and then got another plus 3 for killing me. That's actually pretty normal. My army definitely dies a lot, so I wasn't expecting to keep up on that attrition. But man, what a nail biter! Congrats to my opponent. Great game, great guy. Really liked meeting him. And I hope them all the luck in the future. And in the future, I'm not sure if I'm going to play the Kingdoms of Men every battle. In fact, I'm pretty sure I won't. I'm probably going to swap around armies a lot. So if you guys have an idea of what you want to see, feel free to post it in the comments below, and I will take it into consideration. But until next time, bye.